just going to head over to the resource now. Okay, so for those of you who have never seen this resource before, it was published in 2 modules. We've just released the second module, which is focusing on medical missions, particularly in South and East Asia. So there's a lot of medical texts in there, missions to do with educating people in South Asia and Southeast Asia in I suppose modern practical medicine, as well as a lot of political and social writings on activities in China and East Asia as well, political, social activities. But just a little bit of background about what CMS. I'm just going to click into the Introduction tab, and click into the Nature and Scope. So these periodicals are sourced from 2 different libraries. All the material itself the majority of it is from the CMS. We've sourced it from the Cadbury Research Library at the University of Birmingham and the Crowther Library in Oxford. Now, the CMS was founded in 1799 and really has been active across the globe in its missionary work, really founded on the principles of not only world evangelism, but also in the early days the abolition of the slave trade and social reform through the years from 1799. Now the majority of these periodicals range from 1804 to 2009, so you can really see a vast expanse of missionary activity and the way the CMS develops through the 19th, 20th centuries. So what I'm going to do is just click into the Documents tab here. I'm just going to quickly show you around the resource, how to operate it, some of the functionality, some of the different document types, and then I'm going to hand over to Phillip Cantrell, who can maybe take a slightly deeper dive. So we click into our documents list. We can browse the full set of periodicals by title, also by issue date, who it was produced by. So as well as having the Church Missionary Society itself as a source for these periodicals, we also had some other, I suppose, offshoot publication sources as well. And you can also break it down by module as well. I mentioned that second module we've just published, featuring a lot of medical journals and missionary work in Asia. So you can refine by that if needs be. I just want to show you just the title list here. So I'm going to scroll down just to show you a few of those periodical titles. You can see here the Intelligencer and the Gleaner. These were 2 key CMS publications throughout the 19th century, both aimed at different audiences, and this resource really has an extensive run of these 2 publications. So if you're looking at, I suppose, religious history or missionary work, or even just British experiences in Africa and India during the 19th century, these 2 particular publications are going to be really a great source for those. I'm not actually going to click into those today. I'm looking for this. So I refined my search results there by a particular publication title. I found that one hit of this, which is the Church Missionary Atlas, and then when I click in I get to this page, which is where I want to find all of my metadata, the ability to download this particular publication to PDF or just a specific image range, a citation and export tool should you want to reference this in an essay or have one of your students reference it in an essay, as well as the pretty extensive metadata. And you can actually click through any of these keywords as well, and then you can find instances of that keyword within this publication and then extend it out to the entire database if need be. And just to show you the thumbnail scroller across the top, just so you can quickly scroll through pages. So that's a little bit about the functionality. I just want to show you one more document, and then we'll hand over to Phillip Cantrell. So again, I'm going to open this title list, scroll down, I'm going to click into the Gleaner. Should also mention that you can see here by the column headings, we have broken up these, particularly these larger publications, these large runs of publications, by issue and volume as well as the issue date. Now, should you want to refine to a specific date range, you can do that, but you can actually also sort by date as well, or by issue number, volume number, or actually just the title. So let's just find an example. Let's maybe go for November 1841, one of the earlier publications. We click in here. So once you're actually in the image viewer, you can use this button at the top here to toggle full screen, really get in word by word. You can actually also download individual pages to PDF as well. And I'll just see this little plus button here. You can pull that down, and this is actually going to break out this particular issue by the articles that are present as well. So let's maybe look at some scriptural illustrations. So one thing that, not being an expert in this area, that I found really interesting, and I think is very useful for students of all levels, is looking at it. Well, A is having Anglophone English writing on, you know, very, very remote native cultures in South and East Asia. So having English primary sources, you know, on these people and their social and political customs is extremely useful, and it provides a very interesting survey of Asian and African such culture and society through that missionary lens, granted. So it isn't just writing about the missionary work itself, but also providing overviews or surveys or explanations to the members of these parishes back in Britain. So there we are. I thought I'd just take 10 minutes. I'm just going to quickly show you the Explore tab as well. Should you ever want to find, you know, we've seen the publications, we've seen how to get around these periodicals. Should you want any visual material, we do have the Explore tab, which is a great place with biographies and essays and external links to move your research onwards. But should you want some more visual material, we do pull out all of the visual material from this resource into a separate image gallery. Great for Blackboard pages, or maybe a blog post, or a LibGuides page to maybe make your web pages a little bit more interesting. We really do encourage you to download these images and use them for that purpose. Anyway, that is enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Professor Phillip Cantrell now, who's going to talk about some of the content in a little bit more in depth. So, can you hear us, Professor?
Yes, I'm a professor of World, Asian, and African history at Longwood, and so I teach a lot of students and world history sections, and I was excited about this because, just to reiterate some of Alex's final points, it's a fantastic resource for getting English language access to primary sources. That would be very difficult to find, especially in this volume, in any other capacity. Just this semester, I have a class on the history of China, and I made my first use of the periodicals here at our library online. And I sent my students out to find their own research topic using the CMS periodicals. And they were to then develop a research paper based on primary source materials they found on their own by exploring the CMS periodicals. And they did fantastic with it. They came back with topics ranging from the Opium Wars to the Boxer Rebellion to healthcare matters, the education of girls in China, and they did very well with it. And it reiterated for me how what a valuable resource it is, and I'm glad our university at least purchased it. And so. Okay, how about if we go to the first essay I wrote? There's a couple of articles in there I can highlight for us.
Okay, so here we are, CMS periodicals.
Right, so if you scroll on down to the link to the CMS Gleaner in December 1889.
1889, here we are, right here, December.
December 1889, volume XVL.
Yep.
Click on that document. Okay, great. Yeah, this is an article I highlighted in my essay because it's typical of so many of the writings in these periodicals. In this one, the missionaries are writing back home in the pages of the Missionary Gleaner, and they're telling of a young man who approached them, a young Japanese man who was interested in the West. And what's interesting about this is the article comes from 1889, and it talks about how he was displaying this curiosity in Western fashions. He wanted to know how Westerners were dressing, for example. The missionaries, of course, took this as an interest in their own gospel work. This article comes in the context following the Meiji Restoration in Japan, when there was renewed interest in the West. And so it's a great resource for students to be able to delve into life in Japan, what many Japanese were thinking and wrestling with in the wake of the Meiji Restoration. And so it's important because I think there's a temptation to think that in these CMS periodicals that it's all going to be about mission work, but there's very many articles that students can pull out the research and build papers around. There's another good one, Alex, from April 1943 on the Outlook that I can talk about, April 1943. Yeah, this is an article that goes on for several pages about the coronation in the kingdom of Buganda, of the Kabaka in the midst of the war. And it's a typical material that would be very difficult to access anywhere else. This man was coronated in 1943 during the war, and were it not for the missionaries present on the scene, it would be very difficult to have any kind of primary source, first-hand observation of what this coronation looked like. But being more than just a historical, interesting thing to look at from the standpoint of a coronation, the article highlights a very pertinent issue in African history, and that was what's called Bugandan exceptionalism, where the British were very closely allied with the kingdom of Buganda and attended this coronation, so it would allow students in an African history course to use primary source materials in writing of Uganda during this era, and they can explore the origins of what became one of the most difficult issues for the British during the lead up to independence across Africa, and that was how to manage and handle their very contentious relationship with the other kingdoms in Uganda because of their own relationship to Buganda. And so there's numerous articles like that that provide firsthand primary source observations of historical events ranging far across the world that will be very difficult to access otherwise. Just that, again, as someone who teaches 120 students every semester and who teaches non-Western areas such as China, Japan, and African history, this is going to provide historical source material for years to come.
All right, thank you very much, Alex, for that kind introduction. And yes, my name is Lane Sunwall. I, in addition to my work with the as a learning technology teaching assistant at the University of Wisconsin, I'm also a graduate student, a doctoral candidate in history. And so my work really explores how mission organizations employ technology as a marketing device in its own right. And I focus especially on how missionaries employ technology to influence, whether it's consciously or otherwise, the reception and interpretation of their gospel message. So naturally, I was quite interested in this document that we see right here when I stumbled upon it at the Cadbury Library at the University of Birmingham on a research trip about a year or so ago. And I was really struck by the title, Up-to-Date Evangelism. Really trying to, the writer is really trying to sell the platform, the message of the article as up-to-date, as we're really doing something that's brand new, we're relevant with the times, we're using contemporary technology to bring the gospel message to others. And so what we see right here is a CMS project of using a moving van or just a regular kind of a truck van, attaching to it a loudspeaker, and then going through parts of London in which CMS had very little contact and very little support. Now, there's a fabulous presentation of how a mission organization such as the CMS was using technology in the home field to increase its support. However, we see often with when you're doing this type of research in the archives, you really don't have much context. This was just literally a single piece of just an article stuck by itself and really had no context to it. It's just something that someone had shoved into the archive before the archivist had taken it to the university. So there really wasn't a lot to tell about where this project went to. Was this how the van looked? Where did they go? What was the reception like? How did the Church Missionary Society develop this project further? And so I really didn't have anything to go on because as I looked up and tried to kind of get some context through research, I found that the Harvester wasn't even a CMS publication and that I really had nothing to really go on beyond just this article itself. And so what I did is I went to the Adam Matthews Church Mission Society's online archive, and I started doing some searches, and I was trying to find this material. More about this evangelistic van with a loudspeaker. So I went to Adam Matthews' website, and I just did a quick search. I just typed in church van, and I came up with 1,606 hits for church van. And as I was looking at these, I came to realize that, oh, wait, what the problem was is I didn't put quotation marks on here, and I really needed to kind of refine my search a little bit. Because every time when I put in church van, every time the program found church and van anywhere in the same document, they gave me a hit. And that's not what I was looking for. So I put some quotations around church van on the next search, and I found 0 hits. Like, oh, shoot, not what I was looking for. So I tried a different one, tried a different search. How about church loudspeaker van? I mean, that's a pretty good description of what I was looking for. It's a van owned by the Church Mission Society with a loudspeaker on it. Again, nothing. And what I found was that really when you're doing these types of word searches, the program is looking for text that's in the articles that you're searching through. But that this text, you have to really be really specific in what text you're searching for. So I bounced back to the article itself, and I looked at what words Robert Griffiths was actually using to describe this project that they were using. And I found a couple incidents, but really what struck out, different incidents of words that he was using to describe the project. But really what I found was evangelistic mobile unit, and it kind of screams out to you because, well, first it's already outlined in red, but it's on the side of that van. And so I went over back to the Adam Matthews Church Missionary Society periodicals page and typed in evangelistic mobile unit, thinking, I've hit the nail on the head here. Again, no results. So this is another example of where you don't get discouraged. You just try some different adverbs, different adjectives, and just maybe try mobile unit. And I found 162 incidences. That seems to be about the right number. So I think I hit what I wanted. So I went into the results page itself, and I found a great selection right here. So we have periodicals looking east, the Mission Hospital, the Church Missionary Outlook, the CMS Historical Record. And so these are really great, but I'm pretty familiar with the Church Missionary Outlook and its editorial staff, and I really wanted to look and dig in there a little bit just to maybe get more of a narrative outlook of how the Church Missionary Society is using this mission van, this evangelistic mobile unit. So what I did is I started filtering my searches. I filtered by title. I just wanted to use the Church Missionary Outlook, so I just hit filtered by title, and then I went over and I wanted to organize everything by date, because I wanted to kind of understand how they're using this mission van through time, how this project is developing and evolving over the decades, over the years. And so I just filtered by time, and this is what the revised search looked like. Again, just for mobile unit, I filtered by the Church Missionary Outlook by the title, and then I filtered and I organized everything by the date. And so I clicked on the first link I found, and on September 1947 Missionary Outlook, and here we have kind of a document overview. It gives you some really great context of where this material that you're looking for is found. So if you look on the top, you'll see the issue in which the incidence of mobile unit is found in this Church Missionary Outlook issue, and then below that, towards the bottom, you see kind of again just the hit of how that's being used on the page. And so I click on image 1-7. This is what I find. This is a new adventure of faith. This is a really great article. I have some really great on the right. I have a nice headings of all the articles throughout the issue. But really, I think I found what I was looking for, because the incidences I was looking for, mobile unit, are highlighted in yellow, really handy for me. And so what I did is I clicked on the full screen just to kind of take away any distraction, allow me to zoom in and out a little bit more efficiently. So I clicked on that box with the arrow that I have I have boxed in blue on the top left. And this takes me to the full screen version. And I really kind of tried to highlight a couple of points here for you. And I know I was really excited to see this, because I see this is a new adventure of faith. And having done some research into the publicity archives of the Church Missionary Society, I recognize this title. This is part of a new promotional campaign designed by Leslie Stubbings, who was the publicity director at CMS from about 1945 to 1960. And Leslie Stubbings is a fascinating character. He was a marketing executive in London during the 1930s, and he was recruited over to the CMS to do their publicity and to really refine it, to really bring it up to date, and really to show and to kind of emphasize CMS as a modern a humanitarian mission organization that was really making a difference in the world, and that was relevant to the needs and interests of contemporary Britain, and also the needs and interests of people overseas that they were ministering to. And so this is part of his new publicity campaign, Leslie Stubbings. So what we see right here is a new adventure of faith, really trying to promote missions as an adventure, as something that is leading towards an ultimate goal, a destination. We see on the bottom center, they're evoking transportation. So I have a bridge right there, or maybe perhaps a railroad bridge, and that this adventure is that the support of CMS supporters is absolutely necessary to help make sure that bridge is stable and that bridge is fully upright, so that way CMS can steam along and bring the gospel message around the world. And what I thought was really fascinating, I was just so excited about, is that the mobile unit, these missionary vans with loudspeakers on them, was a part of this new adventure. And again, it was tying in technology and ideas of modernity and bringing them together into this evangelism, into missions. And we see right here that the mobile unit was a crucial component of that, not so much overseas, but it's being used in Britain itself to take CMS's message to places in London and around the UK, in which there wasn't a lot of support, and at the same time really try to get people interested in the Church Missionary Society, perhaps by having free outdoor cinema and movies for people to watch that would maybe track them and get them interested in the Church Missionary Society. So that is really fascinating as part of this brand new publicity campaign by Leslie Stubbings, and I was really excited to find this article. If you're interested in Leslie Stubbings, there's some. If you want to learn more about him, there's an essay that I wrote in the article I wrote in the essay section of the Explore tab of the Church Missionary Society's archives, right here, published by Adam Matthews. Looking at the next incident, I really wanted to see how this was developing. So I had the first article that I found at the Cadbury Library from 1946. The article we looked at just now, The Adventures of Faith, is from 1947. Let's see how the Church Missionary Society is using these missionary vans in 1948. So again, we were into this kind of preview tab of the incident from 1948. So I clicked on page 10, and here we have a fabulous picture of what these vans look like. So the 1946 article was just a prototype, and here I was able to find an actual picture of what this mobile unit looked like. And if you look back here, if you look at this a little more closely, we'll see that they're using this again to kind of go through London. But they have books inside this van. Everything's just van-packed. They have books. They have a projector. They have movies. They have film strips. They have all kinds of literature that they could possibly use. They have folding chairs. And that way they can set out outdoor movie theaters for people to go watch. Or they can take this material and go into a town hall. And again, they can go to a town hall and present there. So again, this is giving me a little bit more details, a little more information about what's going on and how they're using it, and give me a really great picture of it as well. So I wanted to see how this continued. And so I went to 1954, and I see that now they seem to be using this mobile unit more in Africa, and that not only are they using it, is the CMS using it in Africa for promoting their own mission work, but that the government is supporting them in that as part of the uprising and the problems going on in Kenya during the 1940s and 1950s, known as the Mau Mau uprising, and that the government is supporting the church in bringing these mobile units to Kikuyu, who the government suspected might be perhaps sympathetic towards the Mau Mau's cause. So we see this as not only part of church marketing, but it's part of government propaganda as well. We see the church working hand in hand, very deeply with the government by getting funds from the government for using these mobile units in Kenya. And this, again, as it kind of makes this, as this mobile unit makes the jump to Kenya, it's really interesting as well. I did some background research, and I found that the Church Missionary Society had stopped using these outdoor cinemas, these mobile cinemas, because again, they're finding they're having to compete with televisions, and they weren't able to win out as more and more Britons had televisions in the 1950s. And so these mobile cinemas became less and less important as an outreach effort in the UK, but they're able to use them in Africa to what they considered much success here in terms of mission and government propaganda in 1954 in February. But I also saw in August 1954, I got a great picture of what this looked like, and that they weren't only using this for cinema and audiovisual material, but they're using this to transport books and transport medicine as well to people in Africa. And really they're using these trucks as kind of scouts to go to places in Kenya in which the CMS didn't have a real active presence, didn't have a mission station nearby. And they would try to kind of get some feelers of seeing what kind of support they could expect in different areas of Kenya where they didn't already have support. And they found that quite successful, at least according to the next article, that they're finding success in increasing support by using these mobile units to kind of go back and forth real quickly and just visit different people, people groups in Kenya over a period of time, even if they weren't able to commit the full resources of perhaps like a permanent mission station. So I wanted to flash forward a little bit further, and I clicked on the 1959. Again, I found that they're still using this. It's more and more emphasized is using distributing book and literature. And I was really fascinated again to see another picture of how they're building more trucks for this, and they're adapting them to the needs of regional interest, what people were interested in the locations they're trying to reach out for. And this is all fascinating because this is able to find this off just one search. Whereas before, I had to spend hours of research just finding that one article of the evangelistic mobile unit from the Harvester from 1946. I had to spend lots of hours looking for that. Whereas when I went online to the Adam Matthews Church Missionary Society archive, I was able to do all of this in a matter of an hour, just browsing through and looking at these articles and seeing how the Church Missionary Society developed this evangelistic mobile unit over time, and that their goals and their outcomes changed and evolved as well, depending on where they were using these vehicles, and at the same time, for what end were they using them? Were they using them just to try and impress people and say, hey, look, we're using this new technology for missions, or were they using them as they were in Africa, maybe as government propaganda, or as well bringing literature and medicine to people in Africa who really were interested in, or seemed to be interested in that, at least from what the CMS was reporting. So that was how I was able to use this archive to do some really interesting research as part of my own research campaign and my own dissertation work.